So one thing that my fans don't know about me that they might find a little tripped out, funny, or maybe even hard to grasp is I believe in astral projection, which is the art of your soul actually leaving your body. And when you do this, you can communicate with dead people, you can travel to the future, you can travel to the past, you can travel to alternate planes, see shadow people. Some people are so good at astral projection that they can actually read like numbers off of the sides of satellites and report that information to people. Some people also call that remote viewing, but astral projection is like a real thing. And I'm like totally into it. And to the untrained eyes and ears, you're like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? But it's like totally a thing. There's like thousands of videos on YouTube about it. I'm all about it. It's changed my life. It changed how I operate. Like, I feel like maybe at some point in a previous life, I was probably killed prematurely. So I think in this new life, I think I'm coming through with the wisdom of whatever I was learning back then with some other stuff, because like some amazing things happen just by the power of suggestion and me just talking things into existence. It's insane. I could not see somebody for months, even years, have a conversation about them and they'll be there when I get there. It's crazy. I always wanted to meet Greg Nice from Nice and Smooth. Me and my man was in the studio working on a record. And I was like, yo, you know who would be perfect on this song? Greg Nice from Nice and Smooth. And I didn't say this in 1990 something. I said this in 2014. We go to a club that night. Who's chilling at the bar drinking a Red Stripe? Greg Nice from Nice and Smooth. We start talking, we hit it off. We're friends to this day. That's not even the first time that's happened. Like, I was at Comic-Con and I saw the people from Archer was gonna be there. And I was like, yo, Archer's a dope show. I wanna be on Archer. Like, I literally said that to myself because I was alone, no one was with me. I run into a guy who happens to live in Atlanta and produced Archer, and he's like, yo, I'm a fan of you from the radio. How would you like to be on Archer? And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Fast forward 6 months, I went and cut the episode and it's out. It's like episode 6, season 6, episode 13. It's called The Canes. I play a guy named Daryl. Like, yo, like, and that's just a couple things. Like, when you believe in, I guess it's like that movie, the book, The Secret. I haven't read it. I just read the Cliff Notes. But it's like that. Like, you believe in stuff and it comes into fruition. But Google the astral projection thing, it's really real. So what got me into astral projection is I used to suffer from this thing that they call sleep paralysis. And a lot of times people don't understand what sleep paralysis is. Some people say, oh, it's the rich riding your back or blah, 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 blah. But it would get to the point to where, like, sometimes in my sleep paralysis, I would actually like feel a presence breathing on me. And it wasn't an evil presence. It was just a presence per se. Between point A and point B, when I started getting comfortable with the sleep paralysis happening, I just went along with it because don't panic. At the end of the day, you're not gonna die because you've done this before. So one day, during a sleep paralysis episode, I astral projected and I went to my grandmother's apartment. And my grandmother had passed away and it was ill because it was her apartment, but it wasn't how it looked when we lived there, like when I lived there with her. And my grandmother was there and we had like a long conversation, like, yo, like, are you okay? Because, you know, she died kind of suddenly. And she's like, yo, I'm okay. Everybody I want to be over, everybody I want to be around is here. And I'm happy with what you guys are doing right now in life. You know, because like, you know, my dad like had things he struggled with and whatnot, and he's in a great place now. So she was happy to, you know, where my dad was, and she was happy about the things that my sisters were doing, and she was happy about where I was. Because like, one of my biggest regrets was that my grandmother was never around to see everything go to the next level. Like, for her, she felt like I made it when I was just on the radio or when I was working for Motown. She thought that was like the greatest thing in the world. So, yo, grandma, I'm on TV. I wanted you to see this. Like, yo, I got a kid now. I want, you know, like, she was there for my first kid, but you know, like, I just wanted her to see all these other things that like my life would end up producing. But she's like, yo, I see everything and I'm proud of you. When I went back to my body, I thought about it. It's like, yo, that was different than a regular dream. Like, that was an actual conversation that I had with a person. And the things in the kitchen, I couldn't touch it. My hand would go through it. Fast forward maybe 6 months, Joe Frazier's my cousin. He passed away. So at his funeral, I ran into my grandmother's niece. And she was like, hey, you know, I bought your grandmother's old apartment. And I'm like, what? And a couple weeks later, I went to go see her apartment, and her apartment looked exactly the way the apartment looked in my astral projection, like all the things that were in the kitchen and like the way the furniture was placed. And that's what told me that, okay, cool, there's something to this. So I started going online, reading about stuff, out of body experiences, astral projection, like what is this? And lo and behold, I found out there's a thing, it's really a thing. And it's like mad levels to it. Like there are people who could literally astral project to the moon. And these same people that can astral project to the moon will also tell you that there are people who don't want you to do that. Like the government has entire agencies dedicated to training people to astral project to keep people out of places they don't want them. It's and I know it sounds insane if you're just hearing this for the first time. If you look online and do the research and like listen to some of these people, like there's an author by the name of Dr. Robert Monroe. He has a whole institute in Florida that's been in existence since like the 60s, where it trains people how to do this and talks about these type of practices, man. It's an ill phenomenon. And the thing is, the government doesn't want everybody doing it. Because just imagine if I could go back and forth in time, tell you what the stocks are gonna do, tell you what is where, and you know, like it would be like some real X-Men shit. Just imagine, like, you know, you got good people doing it, but just imagine if bad people were doing it. So that's why they put fluoride in the water to calcify your pineal gland and put that type of stuff in stuff that you use every day nonchalantly and not think about. You know, that's why there's fluoride in your tap water. Because if everybody like was walking around with a clear pineal gland, we'd all be walking around ultra woke with all 6 of our chakras wide open, healing people. Like my grandmother, who's still alive, she told me about this lady who, well, not a lady, but like her sister, when she was young, was sitting on her dad's lap, and she fell off her dad's lap and burnt her face on a potbelly stove. You know, old school, you know, shovel the coal in there. And she's like, yo, the skin stuck to the stove. So she's like, her dad took her sister down a block to a lady who could talk the fire out of her. And she's like, she never heard of that before, didn't know what that was, but she's like, yo, whatever she did, you could see muscle in her face, she said, like, because the burn was so bad. She was like within like 3 days to 7 days, everything healed because that lady talked the fire out of her. So a couple months go by, and I'm like, let me look into this. Because based off of everything else that I'm kind of into at this point in my life, maybe this is the thing. So I Google it. Talking the fire out of somebody. Come to find out, it's some weird ass genetic form of faith healing that, you know, people have the ability to do. Not everybody. Like, it's a thing that kind of skips around generations. But the thing is, we're so distracted that a lot of us don't even know about any of this stuff. Like, why you think we always got a phone in our hands, something to watch, something to do? Because it's kind of like, I think a lot of it's by design. You know what I mean? Like, if we were more in tune with ourselves, we could be godlike if we were more in tune with ourselves. I was messed up when I went to go do that Sway interview. My foot was in a boot, swelled up. I have a chipped tibia thing, right? And my thing was like, yo, man, I do not want to walk in here to Sway in the morning on a knee scooter or my foot in a boot. So the night before, I'm staying at an Airbnb in Harlem, and I'm miserable because I'm in Harlem and I can't walk around the way I want to because my foot's in a boot. I meditated the night before the thing. Woke up, foot was fine. Picked up that boot, chunked it in my suitcase, and went and did Sway in the morning on 2 healthy feet. And you know, the thing is, like, if you could tap into that little inner source that a lot of people have, like, within themselves, you know, you just gotta kill all that outside noise, man. We are all capable of some amazing things.